Welcome everyone to the Nerd Nook. I'm your host, Evan Teague. Wim Collins is the man who claims he can use all four elements despite showing the ability to not use any of them outside of one ever. Noah Bailey.
Outside of one. Oh,
So,
yeah, that's on my list.
today, today, um, we'll at least be starting by talking about the Netflix adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And what are your general thoughts to start off with here?
It's kind of like watching someone else play a game you love. And like some parts they pick up really well, and others you're like, I probably would have made that choice. And then after about 20 minutes, you're like, I didn't know you could play the game wrong. But it's also like it's not
Right?
really playing the game wrong if it's not the way you would play it, but it feels wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
hmm it would be like someone playing Breath of the Wild and
yes.
maybe doing one or two of the champions and then going straight to the climax and being the game, never
And not
touching it
fit.
again. Doing
Yeah.
none
Like,
of the side quests, not really fleshing out the world or story, not exploring the world at all, and just beating it, just playing it just so you can beat it and move on. Like that's
oh
weird to play it
man.
this way.
Oh, it's painful. Like going straight to the objectives, no like sightseeing, no, I wonder what's over here. Like just kind of going for, oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's actually kind of a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought of it this morning and I was like, I think that's kind of how I feel about it. Because like there weren't a lot of moments where I was just like, this is wrong. But there were a
hmm
lot of things where it was like, this is not how I would have done this part of the
Right.
story.
Like essentially anything that I can think of that I see as a positive for the show is more so, wow, they didn't screw that up. Like the bending
Yes.
looks really good
Oh, dude.
generally.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Like
the
earth and fire
only
bending especially look great.
the firebending looks amazing. Like like and how they even like kind of did things like, because it's not a kid show, so like
Mm.
burning people alive is like
Yeah.
totally something a firebender would do. Like, yes, I
Uh-huh.
appreciate that. That's really cool. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that water bending generally felt a little more floaty than I would like, but not nearly as bad as the movie, so I'm okay with
yeah,
it.
but I mean, yeah. Waterbending, I think it just wasn't at honestly, I feel like we just didn't see as much waterbending as I would have liked in general.
We'll
But
get to
it
that, but
also,
yeah.
yeah, we will. We will. But
Yeah.
yeah, it just, I mean, the bending looked really good. I think I would say 75% of like the cast and everyone looked great.
Oh
I
yeah.
think everyone looked really good. Like everyone was very recognizable off rip. There was not a,
hmm
I mean, there was maybe one time where I was like, who's that? But I realized, oh, that's not anybody. But it's
Yeah,
like,
like
but
when Jet showed up, I was like, that's either Jet or Haru, and then I quickly figured out
yeah,
it was
right.
Jet.
Exactly.
Yeah, like almost. If you didn't tell me that was Zhao, I wouldn't be able to clock that as Zhao. But I
Right.
liked Zhao. I liked him in the
Yeah,
show.
no, and he did great. I
Yeah.
mean, he had his sideburns, but it's also, I mean, the thing about Zhao too is like Zhao kind of isn't really that notable of a character in the grand scheme
Yeah.
anyway. So I think that's fine that that's the one character you kind of don't really get
Yeah.
immediately, but everyone else
Yeah.
looks right off the page. I mean,
Oh yeah,
off the
Aang.
screen.
This kid was literally born to play Aang. Oh my goodness.
He did a great job, and again, like it's really worrisome because you're kind of worried, like, okay, are they going to get the inflections right? Are they going to say like okay, first of all, like it wasn't even me, but I was watching it. My brother from the other room is like, "Oh my god, is that the guy that plays soccer?" Like it was like perfect. Like I
hmm
loved it. He got the tone right. He got the jokes right. He looked the part. I thought it was great. I really liked
Yeah.
Sokka. I think that was probably the best out of all of them, in my opinion.
hmm Katara was a little
Oh
iffy.
yeah, like she
Like
wasn't bad. I just didn't. She didn't feel like Katara.
she
Does
didn't
that make sense?
get to do anything the
Yeah,
entire
that also.
show. Her her we can go ahead and hit on this now, might as well.
I just
The two main things she does in the show are first be like Aang's rock for when he's going, going a little overboard, like that. She's the one that brings him back, and that's not what happened when he was going to Avatar State at the Air Temple. Her, like, yeah, she yelled, like she, like, pleaded with him, but that's not really what brought him back. It was his memories of Yaso. Like, okay, so already strike one there, and two, you're supposed to teach him waterbending at some point,
bro. Okay,
there was 3 different times she could have taught him something and didn't. Aang taught her more than he taught him.
And again, like, you can see she's learning. Like, she's clearly taking time, whether on screen or off, with the scroll and, like, learning and getting way better, probably better than she should have been. But, like, at waterbending, and at no point Aang is even like, hey, can I try this? Even though we're going to the North Pole anyway, maybe if you at least get some familiarity, you'd be good. Like, it was so weird. Like
after she gets the scroll, which I'm perfectly fine with how she got it, being a family.
Oh yeah, no, I love pirates, but yeah, you gotta skip. You gotta skip some episodes.
Like after she gets that, she's she's by that pond trying the water whip, and Aang is like, try it, like like here's how I would do it, and then did it with airbending, and then she was able to do it at least a little better, not great, but a little better, and then as she says something like, maybe you should try, and he's like, nah, I don't want to, and then just walks away. It's like, that was your moment to, like, let them try it together.
Because that's how it happened.
Yeah.
And again, like, you don't have to show all the teaching, but I feel like when you have limited episodes, it's okay to have some off-screen learning. Like, maybe you have that scene, and then the next episode he occasionally throws some waterbending in there.
Yeah, granted, he didn't do it a lot in season 1 of the original show anyway, but he still at least learned how to. He still waterbended at least once before the climax. And because Katara never taught Aang how to waterbend, never learned how to heal, which we'll get to that more later as well, when she finally gets to the water, to the Northern Water Tribe, the whole thing of, I know I can be more because I've taught the Avatar, that's completely gone. She just, I'm a great warrior because I've been fighting off screen most of the time, all the way here.
Yeah. Which is
and true. Now I learn how to heal.
Yeah. And my issue with, like, we'll get to the thing, but my issue also with, like, getting to the North Pole, it's like, they get to this moment and they're like, oh, train me. I won't. That's not how we do it. And Aang's like, yeah, maybe you should. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, he was saying it more about how, like, I don't want you on the front line, so I don't want to lose you. But like, also, this is another kind of issue with the show, is that several times he'll just be like, oh, my friends are in danger, or my friends are this, or like, I need to help them. But we don't spend enough time with them as a group to really feel for Aang in those moments to feel that's justified for this character.
Yeah, which is weird because we see them a lot. We just don't really see them enough togetherness, I guess, if that's the way of saying it.
Yeah.
They seem split up more often than they should be.
Yeah, because they were barely even in the 6th episode where with the Blue Spirit, because they're trapped
they're in the spirit world. Which, how did you feel about, like, that was interesting. Also, by the way, Ko was terrifying, and I loved it. It was great.
Yes. Yeah, like, another positive that the CG in general is really good. The creature design, so they nailed
all the spirits looked good. Like, it was great. But, like, they made the face switching work good too. I didn't know how they were gonna do that, but it was ideal.
Yeah, but that, I kind of think that's, like, my first major point I have an issue with this show. There's a couple of positives I'll hit on later, but my first major point I want to hit on for why I don't really love this show is that episode in particular is definitely my least favorite episode. It is completely indicative of this, where, like, 70 plus, even 80+% of the stuff that happens in the show seemingly only happens or is in the show because it's in the original show without the purpose attached to it. Like, why the heck is that owl here? What? Why is he here?
Yes. Yeah, I did. Which, like, just just save it for later. Like you're gonna do
Right.
another season. Just save it where
Yeah,
he's actually in it.
like you could. Yeah, they're gonna get more seasons, so just have it later, or have just a different spirit, or have Roku talking to him like it should
Yeah.
have been. But we'll get to that more later as well. And, and also in the in the original show, when they are talking to the owl, everyone can hear them, but when they're in the spirit world, only Aang can hear them for some reason. I don't really. It was a
Yeah,
funny gag, I guess, but it doesn't really make
eh,
sense. And then
no.
later that episode, they see the panda spirit that's been all corrupt because he was
Hey,
damaged,
bye.
and then like they just dodge. The panda spirit creates the fog, and then the panda never comes back. They just never resolve that story.
Yeah,
Why
that's
even
kind of
have
yeah.
that?
Well, I mean, well, my thing that's weird about it is like in this version, it feels like Ko was the problem, not
Yeah.
Heibai. So it's kind of
Mhm.
like, oh, I gave him the totem back, so he just released everybody. But like
Yeah.
we didn't learn anything from the like lesson, really.
Exactly. Like in the original, it's Heibai who was stealing,
Right.
spirit. So now he's here just because he's supposed to be here at this part of the story, despite you bringing that owl and he's not supposed to be here.
No.
And we like Ko, so we're gonna do Ko here. But
Which I
again, not.
mean, yeah, that's not really where it's supposed to be, but it was. I mean, co part was well done, at least how it looks. So I gotta give
Yeah.
it a pass. But
No, I like Ko being the instigator of that problem. I just feel like do one or the other, not both
yes,
weirdly
right.
meshed together.
It's like we're doing this because it says to do this kind of thing.
Yeah. And there's, like I said, just so many instances of stuff like that. Like the Cabbage Man, which I love the Cabbage Man. I absolutely adore the Cabbage Man, but the way the build up to that joke happened, like there was three different times when like he thought he would say it, but he didn't, and then when he finally did, it was like my cabbage is just so forced and weird.
Yeah, I mean, just do it the one time and then move on. Like, don't, yeah, like the build
Mhm,
up. I don't know. I don't get that. Like, I didn't really. Because
mhm.
again, it's like obviously this is for the fans. Like everyone who, like most people who are watching this already know exactly what's going on. So like, just
Yeah,
own it. It's okay.
yeah.
But not bad. But Omashi as a whole looked really
Oh
awesome.
yeah.
Boomy was a great kid. I like how they Boomy. I like how they made him a little more serious, but still, it was Boomy.
I've warmed up to how they handled me. I don't like. Obviously, he's very different from the original show, but
Yeah.
this is this is a valid take for how after 100 years you would
Yeah.
get jaded. You would your best friend's been gone for that long. He's finally back, and now you're that makes sense. Um, like it being different isn't necessarily bad here, although I do feel like I don't know. I feel it maybe could have been done in a way that would have just made fans less mad or something. I'm not entirely sure how that would look like, but regardless, I think Boomy overall was handled in a way that worked. However, a lot of the things that he said were like leading up to that were just lines ripped from the show again without the
Mhm.
same purpose.
Yeah. And that was kind of a common thing. Like it was like every third line was like ripped from the show, but not used the
Hmm.
way they use it in the show, which was kind of
Yeah.
weird. It was kind of like, oh, source material, but like out of context source material.
Yes. And I kind of want to take that into my next, like, probably my number two issue with the show.
Okay.
There were several times that this show treated Aang exactly like he was the character from the original show, despite his actions being completely different from the original show. For
Hmm.
example, they made it explicitly clear that Aang did not run away from the air temple. He just left temporarily to clear his head. Like, I just need, just take a midnight drive just to, clear his head, just think about what
Hmm.
happened. yet they still kept the storm. Because like the whole point of the original was that he left in the storm because like that's what he felt he had to do just to get out. But he stupidly flew into a storm and then he actually tried to turn around and come back and then got hit by a giant wave. That's crazy. Okay. Um, and then there were several times that even though the audience knows that he did not leave, because he was a coward necessarily, like even though we know that there were several times where characters chastised him for being a coward and being irresponsible because you left us that 100 years. Like, like no, this Aang didn't do that.
Mm. Or at least, I mean, he didn't do it on purpose. I mean, I guess it's like, I guess the idea is that like, regardless of what your actual intentions were, what happened from their perspective is their truth, kind of thing.
I
But
guess,
like,
but
yeah,
well,
I see
Kyoshi
what you
was
mean.
yelling at her. When Kyoshi should have first
Yeah,
saying, "I
no,
don't
see
know
that,
what,
see,
what."
yeah, yeah, that's yeah. She should know, obviously, but
Yeah, and then my favorite example of this is that the writers made it explicitly clear that they wanted this Aang to be way more direct about
mm-hmm.
getting to the Fire Nation, not taking any detours, etc. Yet Boomy still makes this insane comment about how like it's always about games with you. You're always prioritizing just goofing off. Like, what does that mean in this context? This character doesn't do
Right.
that.
He hasn't done that in forever, and I guess Boomy hasn't seen him in forever. But I mean, at the same time, I don't think he knew Boomy when he knew he was the Avatar. So does that really matter?
I don't. Yeah, I don't think so.
Right? Right? Because I mean, he found out he was the Avatar like what, like a day or two before he left.
Yeah, and yeah, so that's weird when like you explicitly make a choice for your character to be different, but then have characters reference how he should be. It feels weird. And then when he's
Yeah.
talking to Ko, even though Roku had not told him, what to do against Ko, he was still the like stoic, emotionless,
Well, I
showing
think
no
it
emotion on your face. Like,
also,
how do you
yeah,
know how to do that?
I think Ko said something about like I can't take your something because of the Avatar spirit or something like that. Like it was like some kind of Avatar automatic defense BS. I don't know if that's
Like that's dumb.
well, it's not a thing. I mean, like that's more. I mean, it's not like I mean, I get the Avatar special, but like that's not a thing. I don't think. But I mean,
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah,
know. I think
like I don't mind in theory, I don't mind the show trying to do something different with these characters, with this story, because no matter what you do is going to be compared to the original, so you might as well try to do your own thing and try to make it good in its own way. That's fine. However, don't try to shoehorn in elements of the original where they're not present in this show. It's just
mm-hmm.
weird. Um, yeah, I think those are like throughout the entire show. Those are my two major things that just kept cropping up. How like you simply changed this, but you're also trying to reference that's yeah, that was annoying. Anyway.
Yeah. And then like okay, so I let me
Mhm.
go through my list here. Okay, let's see. Um okay, so let's talk about the firebenders for a bit.
Okay.
So I really like how they did both Zuko and Iroh. Zuko,
Oh yeah.
I think like I think he really got just like the I don't know like the frustration down. Like that
Mm.
scene where he's like where like especially in the last episode where he's talking to Zhao and Zhao's like, yeah, this whole thing is just your wild goose chase. The like you don't even know how that like what to say, how mad you are. Like I feel like that was like
Mm-hmm.
exactly that felt really in character. I think Iroh was great
Yeah.
wisdom, but also kind of support, being in the background. Okay,
Hmm.
not as funny as the original, but I think that's
But
just
he still had
not
his
given as
moments,
many
and
funny lines. Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, I do
yeah.
think though.
Mm.
Wait, do you have something you wanted to say?
You continue. I was going to move on to
No,
something slightly different, but yeah, go.
no. I do think the rest of the fire, but I feel like they get too much with like the fire lore, and especially with Azula. I really didn't like how they handled that. I feel like they just
Yeah,
I mean,
Like that. I mean, that's a primary example of what I was talking about. How elements from this, like elements, are here only because their thing is from the show. Why the heck are
right.
my and Tylee? Why are they here?
No, I mean
They're just
like not
here.
in a mean way, but like and I like it's hard because like when it's live action, if you cast someone, you gotta kind of use them, or that's disrespectful, I guess.
I
But it's
guess,
like,
but they
why
didn't
would you
do it. They didn't
cast?
really do anything.
I mean, literally, the only scene that Azula should have been in the whole thing is the flashback scene, and
Mhm.
at the very end where they take Omashu. That should have been the reveal. That should
Yes,
have been it.
yes. However, I kind of take issue with that scene happening because in the original, I'm going to say that a lot. In the original, like it
Yeah.
was a big moment where like, oh, we need to go back to Amashu so I can learn Earthbending,
And they come
and
back and it's
it's all
yeah,
like the audience and
gone.
him learn at the same time that it's gone. And
It's
now
on fire. Like, yeah.
they mention, oh, we need to go back to Amashu so you can learn Earthbending, and then right after that, oh no,
Cut
Earth,
to a
it's gone.
Mashu.
So
Yeah.
like
Which I mean, I guess it's the same effect for the audience. It's just not for the characters. But the way they make it sound is they're not going straight to a Mashu anyway. So it's kind of like,
yes,
I guess,
yeah,
but I mean, but yeah,
yeah.
I mean, they're doing it
And
their
I
way.
just I find it so funny that Azula's entire purpose in this show is to basically do the exact opposite thing she did in the original show. Like
Mm.
in the original, her entire purpose for season one was to be at the very end where he's all like, "Well, your brother failed me. Let's see if let's send you
Let's
out
see
there
what you got.
to do it better." Here, he Ozai is using Zuko as a way to try to make Azula better when
Which
Azula
doesn't
is a
really make sense.
prodigy and she's just naturally better.
Yeah, that didn't really make sense. Like they like the motivation change. Also, that doesn't make sense for the Fire Lord either, because
No,
I mean
it's not.
that didn't make sense at
Yeah,
all. Like I was so
and then
lost by that. I
Azula
was
has to
like,
like prove herself and then ask to be put into the field. That's again exactly the opposite of what she originally did.
yeah.
It's, it's not a choice.
Also, like apparently Azula manipulated the whole thing. I feel like was
That came out of
completely
nowhere.
unnecessary. Yeah, that was completely unnecessary. Like I didn't. That was
Like
like you didn't need
who
that
would
at
have
all.
identified those swords? Who told me? Who gave me the
See
archers?
that
Like what?
I mean, that was dumb because I mean, like I know in the original show, Zhao just shows up to his room and just kind of sees the swords,
Mm-hmm. I
and he's
really
just
like
kind of
that
like,
scene. Yeah.
yeah, because he's like, it's very subtle, but I think there's like a slight music. I think there's like a slight cue of the Blue Spirits theme when he like
Mm-hmm.
inspects the sword, and then moves on like he didn't notice anything, and then
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah. But this time he just left the swords behind, and he asks Azula to identify. That's I don't know. Like that just happened off screen randomly. Like okay, sure, why not?
yeah,
Like I like the actress they got for Azula. I
yeah,
adore the guy they got to play Ozai. Like I
oh yeah,
think showing more of Ozai is perfectly fine. I would have even liked to see more of remember that like that little like insurgency that Azula uh like got on the inside of and then thwarted at the beginning of episode 3.
wait, what?
That little like group of people that
Oh, yeah. Okay, that okay. I will admit that was kind of
uh,
was definitely kind of. I was confused at first what it was, but that was pretty cool.
you still there?
Yeah. Sorry, I
Okay,
think it
cool.
went
Hi.
out for a second. But yeah, no, it that I did like that like insurgency thing where it was like, oh yeah, no, we can go in here. And it's like, wait, where? And it's like, dun.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's not good.
I would have liked to see more stuff like that. Like if you're going to have Ozai more, I would have liked to see like the war is still raging on,
Yeah.
outside of what we see, from the outer perspective. It would have been kind of cool to see him, you know, lead more war rooms and like talk to
Mm,
generals and stuff. I would have liked to see more of that, but
yeah.
focusing all on Azula stuff, I didn't really
Yeah.
like that.
Also, no blue fire.
She
Like,
had it for a half a second.
but
Then she
like,
got angry. Yeah,
no.
that's dumb.
That's
Look
like
at
there
she's
was
a
no
prodigy. It's
like
her whole
there's no
thing.
that's what I'm saying. Like that's her whole deal. And it was such a big deal because like we were just like, wait, what? Fire can be blue? Like
Hmm.
there was just this huge deal. Like we were just like,
Yeah.
she was just broken. Just yeah,
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I mean, there were some things that I was just like, why make this choice at all if you're gonna
Hmm.
do this? But
Yeah. And then Zhao like revealing that Ozai was just using Zuko to make Azula better, basically cuts them off from being able to do the whole Zuko alone storyline in the same way, because that
yeah.
because originally, like when they first meet Azula, she was able to trick them into thinking that they were going to be welcome back, but
Mhm.
now he knows that's not happening.
That is also a great scene. Yeah, the prisoners are under and she's like, you let the cat. We were this close. You let the
Yeah.
cat. That was such a good scene. Oh my god!
Yes.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it feel like I get there's less episodes, so we're not gonna get to do every cool moment from every cool episode, which is fine. But the big stuff, I feel like we should still keep on the same like frequency.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on that in just a moment. I do want to just
Yeah.
mention the fact that I absolutely loved Zuko, just to finish up that
Yes.
discussion. Like him and Iroh were definitely my favorite part of the entire
Mm.
show. Um, yeah, just I liked their relationship. I liked them
Yeah.
individually. Like I just think they did handled their characters very well.
I do also really like how they did Zuko's version of like the Storm episode with like Iroh tells them the backstory, and the
Hmm.
part where they realize we're like this crew is actually the people
Mm.
that would have been
Mm.
sacrificed. That was an excellent touch. I don't think because
Yes.
that's not in the original. Like
No, the crew are just a
that
bunch
was
of
a
mooks. Like, they're just
that's
people.
what I'm
Like,
saying. That was I will say there aren't a lot of things where I say that was like an A
hmm.
plus add on, but that was an A plus add on. I think that was
Yes.
great because it makes it
Like
that much more.
everything, pretty much everything with the Fire Nation that was like aesthetically I really liked. There's a lot of lore with like with Iroh's son's funeral. I like that little
Mhm.
flashback scene. The that Umashu guard who was like talking about my brother was at Bossing Say and you torched him. Like those
Mhm.
moments with Iroh and Zuko I thought were very strong. And if you're going to make random changes, do more stuff like that, where it's completely new things or things just build on these characters we already know, not random fan service spirits and random things that only really the fans will know, but because it's not the same, they're not gonna like it. I don't know what the premise of that
Right.
was.
If you're gonna add something that kind of enhances the story you're already telling, not just thrown in
Yeah,
just because look what we can do.
yeah. So instead of wasting a third of several episodes on Azula stuff, you could have just used that time to like flesh out actually add stuff to these stories that is in the original show that we actually want to see. Like for example, it is crazy to me that they thought it would be a good idea to take out them meeting John and Aang learning, at least
Mm-hmm.
beginning to learn firebending, which led to Katara learning how to heal, and then Aang realizing that fire can be dangerous and not wanting to learn it, therefore being like a big you know, block he has to get over in season 3. Like that's crazy
Mm-hmm.
that they thought to take that out. That is a very pivotal moment in the entire series.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they completely miss John at all. Like, it's not even mentioned.
Hmm.
There's no nothing. But
Yeah,
oh, man.
like I. That's just one of the major issues I have with the way the show was structured. Is because there's only 8 episodes, they can't show everything, but
Mm-hmm.
there are so many elements in the show that either come back or have ramifications for the future or like are just so important that if you take them out or change it at all, like building blocks for the future just can't happen the same way. You have to write around it later. Like I don't know why they would bother. I don't know why they bother making it harder for themselves later.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you kind of not write yourself into a corner, but just kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, speaking of writing yourself into a corner, they made an insane decision, just absolutely baffling decision, where they specifically said that Aang can only talk to other avatars when he's at their shrine.
Yeah, what is up with that? I don't.
I
That was
don't know.
weird. That makes no sense. I mean, granted, this is all made up, but you know what I mean. Like based on what we
Yeah,
know, that makes no sense.
like I don't like. I think in the original show, if I'm not wrong, I believe when you're at their shrine, their like spirit is more powerful, so you can like get more out
Yeah,
of them. But
yeah.
you
I
can at
mean,
least talk to them. like,
right?
like
Or
when
like
you're in the spirit world, it makes sense that Roku can just talk to you because his spirit is around there.
he's a spirit, right? And like you're the avatar, so you're kind of as long as you're you, it's just kind of there. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
like it makes
So
sense
to,
because like yeah,
and considering it, just there have been thousands of avatars. There's no way there's that many statues.
right.
So
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, so any of the last not three avatars, you're just kind
mhm,
of screwed because oh well,
yeah,
we got a new avatar for the Earth Nation. Bye, Kyoshi. Like, is that it? Like, we just
I guess.
like, I mean, you know
And
what I mean? Like,
yeah, and one thing my roommate pointed out, which I was afraid would happen, but it seemingly absolutely is the case. Um, the only times that Aang goes Avatar state are at those shrines. The first time he's technically in the room where Yang Shin's shrine was, then at Kyoshi Island,
mm,
and then at the koi fish pond, which is right behind
mm-hmm.
the
Karuk's
waterbender.
little thing. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
um,
That's gonna limit things a lot. I mean, maybe it's one of the, maybe they'll do a thing where like, oh yeah, this you tapped into without knowing it, but you can do it whenever you want, maybe with the guru or whatever or something later.
that's what I'm hoping. That's what I was thinking too.
Because that, yeah,
But
that limits the story a lot.
yeah, like the scene, if they do, which we'll get to in a second, but if they do the whole Appa's Lost Days thing and have the Sandbenders steal him, like when he
Mm.
goes rage mode on them, it's not going to be nearly as effective if he can't go Avatar state.
Oh, man, end them over Appa, man. I've
It's
never
fair.
taken a light. Also,
Yeah.
oh man.
Like, there, like I said, there are certain things that I think this show did about as well as it could. Like the costume designs, very,
Mm-hmm.
very good, to the point where they almost looked kind of too clean and looked like they were. And I get like you want to make them as good as possible, but like for example, Sokka's stick, it being that like bright white, looks like it's never been used before. Um,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. like,
Yeah, but I mean, but you knew exactly what it was, and it was extremely
yeah,
recognizable. So I mean, you
yeah,
can't be
and
that
like
mad.
their clothes throughout the whole time look exactly like they did at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it, the the entire Blue Spirit episode I thought was kind of really good, mostly because like I feel that episode did the best job of combining different elements of different stories in a cohesive manner.
Mm-hmm.
However, it was complete tonal whiplash going from the previous episode where they are first trapped in the spirit world directly into that episode, which is like going from the worst to the best episode of the show.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blue spirit thing. Is really good.
Yeah.
I kind of liked in the finale episode. I really like when the moon spirit gets killed and then they do the thing where it's all dark. I do like they kept the details where it's like it's all grayscale except the bending, the giant spirit kaiju, and then Yue's eyes specifically are still blue, which is still
Yes.
interesting. I like that
I
they still
do
did that.
think that I think they did that about as well as they could have done it given the
Mm-hmm.
budget they had. But again, not to gas it up too much for you. I know you haven't seen it yet, but after seeing Dune Part Two, I can't give it too much credit.
You can't. Okay, now we can't
Oh,
just
come
be
on.
at like.
That there's several elements in that movie where it's like this, where like the background is completely one color, yellow, and then like
Mm-hmm.
the main character's eyes are bright blue, and it just looks so good on that, and like just the lighting in general. Like there's an entire grayscale scene in that movie that looks fantastic. Like,
I have to see this movie.
yeah, it, it's good, but so it's not really fair to compare them necessarily, but just like UA's eyes, they didn't like pop as much as I would like.
Yeah.
Um, just the way the lighting happened, like it didn't necessarily look grayscale the entire time. Almost, I don't know. There's something about that effect wasn't as good as I was. It definitely not as good as it was in the original show, but it wasn't like bad either. It was the idea they had was about as good as they could have done it. So
Yeah. I mean, it's
yeah,
like you gotta do so well.
yeah. I will say, I feel like I feel like Aang's whole turning into the giant koi fish monster scene, though cool, it clearly sapped most of the budget of the show, but it was cool.
Yeah, it did look good. Yeah.
Yes, I feel like the the fact that let me put it this way: in the original show, when that scene happened, it's at the very end of the episode. Is this big cathartic moment where he finally turns the Avatar state, turns into the big kaiju, you know, and then just basically in one big attack, sends all the ships, away. And here, it just like after the first couple of minutes, I'm like not tired of it, but like I feel like it just lasts a little longer than it needs to be, especially since most of the show's budget is going into this effect. You probably could have cut it a little short and put that
Mm-hmm.
money into other things somewhere else, but it was a climax. I don't blame them for going all out, but I feel like it being a little, just that display of power could have been just a little bigger.
Yeah. Could have kind of made it more in the background. I mean, yeah, and I feel like there were some. I don't know. There's a lot. There are a lot of things. Just like when they get to the north, there was some other stuff that came because like so. There's two moments in Avatar that I love about Katara.
Mm.
There's the Southern Raiders, which is my favorite Katara episode by a mile,
Oh,
and
easy.
then
Yeah.
no, we'll get there one day. But
Mm-hmm.
there and her fight with Paku. This fight with Paku was not. I don't know if I just love the original fight way better, but I felt so like not cheapened out, but I was like that fight should have been way more intense. Like I don't know if it's like because Paku was the first person we saw who could like was a water bending master. So I mean, he was doing crazy stuff. So we hadn't thought about Katara's pulling out all these tricks and and they did them, but they just didn't look as cool. I
Yeah, and
guess.
that's kind of a problem with waterbending in this show, where it just
Yeah.
kind of looks visually like the weakest of the abilities.
Yeah, like a lot.
Yeah.
They gotta. I don't know. Hopefully they fix that because I was like, yeah, the water bending looked kind
Mm-hmm.
of not sad, but like, because like even the like ice prison that he put him in, like in the show, it's like, or at least, or no, I'm thinking of the one with Zuko, but like it's like way up there. Here it's just kind of like a playpen, like don't move. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't really feel that intimidating. But
Yeah, like
this should
and
be,
just the speed at which he's going on that basically ice manning around, it was way
yeah.
slower than it didn't look that impressive.
No, and like this is like the master, so now you're like, okay, now it's lame.
Yeah.
Mm.
I will also say it was kind of a consistent problem with this show where plot elements wouldn't actually end until the start of the next episode. Like the whole thing with Jed, that just kind of stopped in the first Omasho episode. And in the beginning of the next episode, Jet's just back, and the Qatar freezes them because that's how that ends in the show. It's like, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's over. Like,
Yeah.
You just kind of lose that like sense of finality until the start of the next episode. It seems a little weird. And same with this, where he didn't respect her as a waterbending fighter until
Mhm.
the start of the next episode. That's I don't really get that.
Yeah, it's like, did something happen in between here, or like if this it was not communicated? Like, had there
Yeah.
been like a gap, like in the show,
Mm,
like an understood gap of, oh, we got here early, so we have time to train, and then like we're better and stuff like that. But
yeah, and that's kind of another just structure issue I have with this show is because there's only 8 episodes, you just don't have the time to really let things breathe and let things play out the way
mhm.
they should because like I think Aang and Zuko only really saw each other like 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because like the beginning, Inomashu for a
Inomashu,
bit, the Blue
Blue Spirit.
Spirit,
Aang didn't
and
even know Zuko was there because he
that's
was
what I'm
squid
saying. I
fishing.
don't think he even
Like,
saw him at the North Pole because he just saw Katara, right?
yeah, and then they left. So, and I
Yeah,
don't I
three
don't
times.
necessarily I didn't like need the whole scene where he captured Aang and like took him out in the middle of nowhere because you
Mm,
kind of already had a similar scene of them talking
yeah.
like earlier. So I don't need that to happen. But again, the original it was a persistent problem that did Zhao didn't even I don't even think he really met Avatar because he was
Who?
Kyoshi at the time.
Well, he had him chained up one time.
Before that,
Oh,
before Blue Spirit episode, he was
before then? I
yeah,
don't think.
and
No,
that's kind of weird because
I don't think so because I don't think there was time.
yeah,
Because
it
Zhao just kind of
wasn't
showed up, followed Zuko, and then, oh, I'll take that. Thanks.
yeah
And that was about it.
because like because these weren't like a persistent threat. It just I don't know, just the culmination at the end just didn't feel as powerful as it should have been. Like like I feel like there should be more time between the Blue Spirit episode and the climax. Is that there's only really one episode between between that.
Mm,
we, I don't know.
yeah, but
Yeah.
also, this is kind of just
Mm-hmm.
a thing for in general, and I didn't really think about it until I got about halfway through. But a lot of the action scenes had a lot of unnecessary slow motion.
Yes, yes. Thank you for bringing that up. I forgot about that.
Like, yeah,
Absolutely.
like it was kind of like sometimes it was kind of like, okay, cool, but sometimes I was just like, okay, we don't need every single dodge, every
Hmm.
single. It's
Like
like,
it's
who
one
is this?
thing. Like when at the beginning, episode 2, when Zuko, oh sorry, when Sokka takes Suki's fan and like blocks that one fireball in slow motion. That one moment was fine, I think, because like I think slow motion hits better when there's like a sense of danger. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're just doing it just to extenuate Aang turning around and then blasting air at somebody, it's like why couldn't he just do that? Like you're
Yeah,
just
I
making
mean,
the
it
episode
would.
longer.
I was always like, it would just look cooler. In fact, like especially like a good fight scene. I feel like slow motion is not neat. I think it would just look cooler if it's faster. And if you need to,
I
we can
agree.
slow it down and watch it again and be like, oh my gosh, wait, like let us do slow mo if we want to.
Yeah, like when Zuko and Aang are fighting in Omashu, like just take that similar scene at a similar point when and I think it's in Bata the Water Tribe when Zuko and Aang are fighting on top of that well in that
Oh
one
yeah,
village,
like
just in that one
yeah,
little space, just like going at each
such a
other. Like that's so
yeah.
good.
That's one of the best fights. Yeah.
But and like that was a pretty good fight in Omashu between them. But yeah, that the slow mo and like kind of it just yeah a couple of like just it definitely wasn't as good as it could have been.
It just was, yeah. It's just like slow mo's not bad. It's just like don't use it if you don't need it, kind of thing. Like, yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of have like The way our brother said it was like, just like, don't slow it down. Just have hands. Like, it's okay. Like,
Yeah,
just, like, we'll slow it down if we need to. But like, yeah, just go for it and like let us go back. Because I guess it feels more real. Like it feels more impressive if it's not slowed down. Just go for it. It's just good choreography.
Yeah. Oh, the first episode of this show, like, it kind of made me want to stop watching the rest of it because they did the intro 3 different times. Why the heck does Katara's grandma just say the intro?
Yeah, no, that was annoying. That like basically reading it off, and I was like, okay, we get it. We know what show this is. Like, if you're gonna do that, actually do an intro. Don't do it in real dialogue. Now it just sounds weird.
Yeah, and like the first time they do it, it's weirdly Kiyoshi doing the intro, and like I feel like it's more poignant to. I mean, this whole entire show really, really like diminishes Roku's entire presence in the show. there's several different times when like a thing that some other character did, Roku did in the original show, like Roku was basically Aang's spirit guide. Like the first time Aang basically became another avatar was Roku. um, like it's really important that because he was the most recent avatar, he's like the one that Aang can learn from.
Right.
I liked Kiyoshi. I liked his conversation with Kiyoshi, but it just and obviously fans really like Kiyoshi, and I get that, but she it's weird that she's the one who's starting who starts talking in the show. It's I don't know. It was a little weird.
Yeah, it just feels off. But I mean, I don't know. I guess you're gonna make it yours. You gotta change the little things too. But
yeah,
I don't know. It just feels kind of
yeah, and like essentially, here's my final. I'm sure we'll have more to say, but like my overall like verdict of this show is essentially as a show, it's not terrible. Like the things that are happening in the show are like more or less, decent to good. The pacing could be better. Um, like the CG is about as good as it could be. The choreography is pretty good outside of the slow mo. Um, like the character writing isn't great, but not terrible. Like, that was another thing. The whole tunnel of love thing. That was weird. Like, why is that here now? Why is it like brother? Like, why is it sister? Right, sibling love? That's a weird choice.
It kind of feels like they did it for the memes. I'm not gonna lie,
honestly,
because I won't lie. When they started playing Secret Tunnel, I was bopping along, but
absolutely, but
yeah, that was not needed.
yeah, like, but regardless, like as a show, it's not absolutely terrible, and I could potentially see someone who hasn't seen any Avatar somehow watching it and enjoying it enough. I couldn't necessarily see you falling in love with it the same way that you fall in love with. Like I couldn't, as good as these characters are, they're definitely not nearly as good as the original. It doesn't look nearly as good as the original. It's not as dynamic as the original. So like, I don't know why you would watch this when the original is literally next to it on Netflix. But
yeah,
so because of that, I don't know why you would bother doing things so similar to the original, yet changing so many other things to the point where the core audience of people who are going to watch it, which are fans of the original, they're not going to like it because you're changing things. So I don't really know who the show is for.
Yeah, I mean, It's wild too, because like I literally wrote down because I was in my notes and I was kind of like the show's overall it's not bad, but honestly, kind of going back to my like original analogy, it's like it kind of just makes me want to go watch the original
Yeah,
because it's like you see
for
someone else
real
play
though.
your game and they're kind of playing it well, but not really, and like kind of just makes me want to start over. You know what I mean? Like this is how you do
Yeah.
it. Like, and I guess
Like
that's not like a critique as much as a preference, but I guess it's just kind of like I don't know.
like I let me put it like this. I I love bad movies. I love bad
Mm.
movies more than I like most good movies. I appreciate them for very different reasons. I
Right.
absolutely, with every fiber of my being, adore the live action Last Airbender movie. That movie
Oh
is gutter trash, possibly the worst thing ever put to screen,
God.
bar none. Like it is in the discussion of worst thing ever made.
Definitely.
Every single element of that movie, this show does better. Anyone who even thinks about comparing them directly, and even going far as to say that The Last Airbender is a better product,
Okay,
just
no.
log off the internet and just do something else with your life. It's
Yeah,
not worth it.
just stop.
Like you are wrong. Just stop. However, that movie is so incompetently made, so just like I said, every single element is just incorrect to the point where I legitimately don't know if they were even trying to make a good product. So in a way, I kind of pity it more than I like actually like feel the energy to like say they're doing this wrong because I don't think that was ever going to happen with this product. However, with this live action show, because there is clear love and effort put into it from people who are fans at least of some elements of the original show, and things are changed so drastically, things are out of order, things are taken out that are very important. It This show genuinely makes me more angry than the movie does, despite it being technically a better product.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean,
I said I love that movie. It's terrible, but I love it. Where the show is actually is so competently made, but so many things are different, and so many things seem so amateurishly. I don't know, like not amateurishly, just like it just has this. It just has this feeling that they made it for the fans while also trying to do their own thing,
mhm.
and those two things don't mesh together very well to the point where the fans, which are me, don't really like it.
Yeah, I mean it's and like you said, it's kind of that thing where it's like, why even do it in the first place? You know, because I mean, I feel like
Mhm.
this was going to be the result regardless. Like, it's not as good as the original, so why make it at all? But I guess it's not bad because we've seen what really bad is. But it's not great because well, the original's great, and this
Yeah.
is not as good as that. But it's hard because it is generally solid. Like it's not bad. I would not by any means recommend it over the original by any extent,
No.
but it's basically like a I don't even know how like an abridged version. I don't know. It's like kind of I mean, it's not that bad. And there are elements I do really like about it. But again, it's one of those shows that I feel like you might appreciate it if you haven't seen the original, but why are you watching this if you haven't seen the original? So its existence
Yeah,
is kind of irrelevant.
I have definitely not to the same extent, but some of the like some of the same issues I have with this show I also had with the Percy Jackson show. Granted, I thought that show just did a much better job as an adaptation. It didn't really change a lot, and the changes that did made the whole story flow a little better. Like as an adaptation, I think that show did a much better job. However, it still has a lot of the same issues where like the 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 fight scenes aren't as dynamic as I would like. The CG is good, but like I think I've seen better. Although I think the CG in Avatar is even leagues better than the Percy Jackson stuff. Um,
Mhm.
the the Percy Jackson show did had a lot of elements where like the show assumes that you're already a fan of the source material, so it's just going to kind
Yeah.
of brush past kind of important things or not leave in things like, oh, you know that you don't need me to spell it out for you. Saying here, it's like you've seen Avatar, you know what this is. You like we're
Right.
gonna just hand wave off some adventures that you would have liked to see and just say that they went on those, and you know what they did. Like I don't want to see that. Instead, you're focusing on things I don't really want to see with Azula. I don't really want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the like, it's like you can't be like, why not do everything? Because like there's not enough time to do all the best stuff of every episode because there's a lot of great moments. But it's also like for me, it's more just like the choices of like how you do certain characters. I think
Mm.
that because I'm a very character person, and again, I think my biggest issue is how certain characters were handled. While a lot of them are done very well, others it feels like kind of like you said earlier. It's like since we really know the stuff, you can tell what stuff actually needs to be there, what stuff's just cash, like
Mm-hmm.
not cash grab, but fan service grabbing kind of stuff. It's like
Yeah, and like I said, because they took out almost every element that makes Katara a character, she
yeah,
didn't really get to do anything or be a character.
maybe that's why we didn't like her. She didn't feel like Katara. She didn't do any Katara stuff.
Yeah,
I
like
don't
she
know.
doesn't have any kind of like because Katara is like the mother type character of the group, but she
Yes.
still is able to get angry. She's still like
She didn't really do anything
like
mothering in the show though,
no, she didn't.
which is weird because that's like Katara's thing, and that's a huge plot point in season two,
I really can't
especially
think
when
of
Toph
any
gets it.
moments where she really was able to like outside of bickering with Sokka, she really didn't get to do
Which
anything.
isn't really mothering. That's just kind of they do that anyway.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, I guess there wasn't a lot of like. I think Katara had a lot of downtime moments
Mm,
which this show didn't really have any downtime. I think that's honestly like the biggest
mm.
reason. There wasn't a lot of downtime for character moments. And because of that, we didn't get a lot of the iconic character moments that tell you this is Katara, this is out. Not that everything she did was not important, but like a lot of her more notable moments are in like downtime or not as busy stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, and and I think the like the conceit of the show being, oh, we'll make Avatar in 8 episodes, although the with each episode being over 50 minutes, therefore the runtime is actually about the same as the original season. But like, we'll change or add or do other stuff here and there to make it our own thing. Like the idea that you have to do that and then fuse episodes together,
Mm-hmm.
I think they did that about like not. I think they did a decent enough job with the elements they did combine, like putting Jet Omashu and the Northern Air Temple stuff all together in the same episode. I thought that was done pretty well. Um, Putting the Blue Spirit and the June and the Firebender Roku Island stuff all together, I thought that was done pretty well. And I think season one is a decent enough season to try to do that with because there is a lot of not filler, but there is a lot of stuff in season one that like if you take out, no one will really miss. Like you're not going to really miss Great Divide. Like you can take out the pirate episode.
Yeah.
Although, even though there is a lot of stuff that could maybe be considered filler, those are the episodes, like you were saying, that really let the characters be characters, and the show didn't have time for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's like I think the biggest issue. Like there's not a lot of time to have these fleshed out character moments. You kind of just like And then it hurts you because, like, well, if the show is not going to tell me, I'm just going to assume it's based on the original character. And then they do something out of character, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I do think that, like I said, season one was definitely the best. Like, was the best of the three seasons for being able to pull for different episodes, put them together, and cut out the fat or whatever. Even though there's stuff they easily could have put in, but whatever. Season two is going to be
Yeah,
rough
that's
because
what I was thinking.
there's a lot that happens in this.
I
To the
mean,
point where they should split into two if they could.
yeah, I mean, I guess you could keep most of it in Bossing Say to save time, but
But
I mean, probably
like
shouldn't, but I mean,
just
you might
going
have
off
to.
of just going from memory, and this I haven't even like looked it up recently. From memory, you got to go to Omashu. I guess
Right.
you can skip that one Earth General guy trying to get Aang to become the Avatar
Oh
state.
yeah, the Avatar state. Yeah.
I guess you can skip that episode. I guess
Yeah, that's fine.
it's a
That could
good
be a
character
throwaway.
building episode, and it also is a good episode for
Yes.
the B plot to be Zuko and Azula meeting up. So there's
Oh
that.
God, that is
Because when you go to Amashu, that's the first time Aang and Azula meet. So
right.
it helps that Zuko and Azula have already met and had their thing. So you don't have. So what? Anyway, we also have to have already assumed that Aang learned waterbending, or at least
Or
like
at
has a
least
pretty good
enough.
adept of it off
Yeah.
screen. Okay. And then after Amasha, you got to find Toph, which I guess you don't
Yeah.
have to do the whole like vine swamp thing, since there are some elements of
Yeah.
that were already in the that one episode from this season, I guess.
Spirit world. Yeah.
But whatever. So you got to somehow find Toph, and then have at least half of one episode learning earthbending. And then I feel like the chase is kind of important.
Oh yeah.
Hey, that's a
It sets the
phenomenal
it sets the
episode.
tone. Yeah.
Yeah, but also it's a good like character building episode for the main team. It's the episode where Iroh and Zuko get back together.
Hmm.
It's a that fantastic scene between Toph and Iroh talking, like just showing Azula as like a major threat for the
Just a
rest of the
unit.
series. Like it's a really good episode that you probably should do, but I don't know if they
I
have
would
time
definitely.
for it.
That's the thing. Do you have time? Because you still have to do all of that. Get to Boss Sing Se, stop the drill, figure out the riddles,
Drill.
deal with the Dai Li, get the Boss Sing Se gets infiltrated, get her infiltrated,
Find out
do
about the
Zuko's
eclipse at some
whole
point.
arc. What?
Find out about the eclipse at some point.
Yeah, find out about the eclipse. Dude, I forgot about the library. You got to do the desert and the library. Find out about that. Zuko's got to have his whole Zuko alone thing. Come back, have his whole arc. Iroh's got to get a tea shop. Do that.
Jet's got to come back.
Jet's got to come back. Oh my God, there's so much going on.
Aang's got to go to the guru.
Yep, Aang has to go to the guru. They have to get found out, go to the chasms, have the whole crossroads thing. But before that, we got to do the blue spirit again to get Appa.
Oh yeah,
The Dai Li Skills Appa. We got to run back to blue spirit, have that whole thing with Iroh and Zuko. And
I could easily see them doing 3 entire episodes in in Ba Sing Se, but I don't know if that's enough time to do it all.
That's what I'm saying. There's so much that happens. I think they have to go to 10 at least.
I really hope they get more episodes next season.
I think they should, because again, 8
10 and then 12 would
be
be ideal. Like,
yeah, at least that'd be awesome. But that's
even more
lot.
happens in season 3.
That's what I'm saying. Well, yeah, but season 3, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's just too much going on. But
like, if I were the writers of this show, and knowing that I had free reign to kind of add stuff and and whatever like they did in this season, I would try to prioritize in season 3. You know how they had that little joke during the climax where Toph was like, "I'm going with Zuko." What, y'all had a y'all had a life changing experience with him? Like, I would have an actual episode with them doing that
A
together.
life-changing episode with
Yeah,
Tom.
yeah.
What would they do? What would they do if they did have a
I don't
life-changing episode?
know. I
Probably
think it would be something
roast
more mundane. Like, I'm not exactly sure what exactly. I just know that, like, in theory, they actually kind
Oh,
of do have a lot. Sorry, what?
but go find her parents.
Find Zuko's parents
No, find Top's parents and like explain
and
some
like,
stuff. Probably that makes the
hmm,
most sense in character to me. Like, not
yeah,
apologize, but just kind of lay down the law. Like, listen, this is like, I know they kind of are into with that, but last we heard of them, they sent the people to come get Toph, and then she had to metal bend her way out into metal bending.
yeah.
But
So,
so maybe kind of have a because I know that's a thing in one of the comics.
hmm,
Like, there's like a talk between Toph and her dad in the future. So I feel like that would be a good.
yeah.
That's the only life changing thing I can think of because Toph pretty much figured it out. Otherwise,
Yeah, that is like the last real bit of her story that needs to be resolved. So yeah,
right?
that makes sense. But
Yeah.
but if assuming that season 3 is 8, well, let's say even 12 episodes, it would make sense for the halfway point to be the eclipse, and then you have one episode
Gosh.
be where Zuko joins the team, and the episode probably after that you have Zuko and Aang with the dragons. I
Yeah.
guess you could make it work, maybe. Maybe.
You don't have time because what about the boiling rock and what about
Like, I guess
that's a huge episode because you
maybe
have to have
6
the
episodes after the
betrayal.
eclipse could technically be enough to do Zuko joins the team, dragons, boiling rock, which doesn't have to be a two-parter since you have a 50-minute episode anyway. Uh, oh, that's perfect actually, maybe because then you have obviously Southern Raiders, Toph's
Right.
episode, and then like a two-part finale, like a big
Before
but longer
finale.
episode
It's a
finale.
giant. Okay. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know. That's a lot for a finale. I mean, the finale is long. I mean, it's 4 episodes of the actual
Yes.
show.
I know Stranger Things season 4 had the finale basically be 2, I think, hour long or like hour and a half long episodes. So they could do something like that.
Okay. We'll see. I don't know. It's one of those you'd have to. Yeah. I just. Yeah. Like you feel like you're rushing at that point, and then it's
Yeah.
like I don't want to rush my art.
But regardless of if they can fit all of that into season 3, backing up just a little bit with the eclipse, because they've already skipped a bunch of stuff already, you know they're going to skip a lot of more stuff. So there's going to be so much stuff that is just going to be left out of the ensemble element of the eclipse, which
Mhm.
is a pretty cool moment from that show.
Yeah. They're probably gonna skip. Do you think they're? I think they're just gonna skip the whole library thing. I can feel it.
They did show at the very end of season 1, that one like elder guy
Mhm.
shows Ozai that
Right.
room. That room is somewhere not in the library, I assume.
I mean,
Like
it's
in
probably you. You would think it's in the Fire Nation, or maybe was that guy one of the sages? He's
yes,
the
so it
sage,
could just
right?
be
So
in
maybe it's
Roku's
at the
temple.
Sage Tower. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would make more. That would make more sense. I guess they could stop there and somehow figure it
Yes.
out.
I guess. Although I'm trying to think, do they go to I can't really remember. Are they just in the desert and just happen to stumble upon the library, or do they go into the desert
No,
in search of the library?
they find a guy who knows about it or has heard about it or something, and the
Right.
guy tells them it's in this desert. They eventually go in the desert. They're like, okay, we're looking for some library. This is gonna make no sense. They eventually find it.
Hmm.
Guy go. They all go in. Toph stays out because
Right.
And then as they're going out, then the Sandbenders come try to take Appa. She has to fend them off, but also the library starts falling because
Hmm.
I forget the owl spirit's name, but he's like, "You guys tricked me. You're using me for the war. How dare you?" And now I'm closing my library. And then the one guy's like, "Hey, you guys got it. I'm just chilling in here," and totally dies. But
And there's a fun moment during Legend of Korra where Janora is like, "Wow, you could stay in here forever," and there's a skeleton right next to her.
Yes,
yeah, someone did.
God,
because that guy did.
that guy's so dead. There's a
Yeah,
couple of those because they do that with Zhao too, and they're just like, "I'm still in the spirit world." I'm just like, "Oh my!"
I liked Iroh killing him. I thought that was a fun touch, but I thought it was more cathartic with him being the rabbi.
I was kind of hoping he was gonna get a spirit kaiju backhand. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of hoping it would just like happen, especially being that big. Like, imagine they're about to go like finish their fight and then just.
Oops.
Well, time to go. Like it would have been wild.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if like they didn't say where the room where he showed them the eclipse or the comet. They didn't show where that room was, so it could be somewhere like because for a fact, for a 100% fact, they are going to have a moment. They're going to do the cactus juice scene somewhere in season 2.
They
They have to.
Yeah.
Like the way they built up to the Cabbage Man, it's going to happen.
It's iconic. They must.
So either either going to be very contrived, and they're like at some at some bar or something, and like Sokka just like drinks it, not knows what it was, and that's just like a C plot of just a random episode, or they're in the desert.
But that's the thing. Like, if you do the desert right, you're gonna have to be stuck there for a while. So maybe that would take up too much time.
It's at least an episode and a half of them
right
in the desert. And I don't know. I don't think you need to do a whole episode centered around Appa's lost days, but again, that's a really good episode where it's a very emotionally powerful episode. I don't know. I just don't know if I trust these writers with the time constraint that they have to be able to show everything they need to show.
I mean, they're literally gonna just make a list, because you can feel like even in this season, they made a list. Okay, what do we have to do? We have to have Bang. We have to have the South Pole. We have to have Kyoshi Island.
Real quick, I just realized I completely forgot about this. The fact that Kyoshi is able to see the future to tell Aang to go to the Northern Water Tribe, that seems a little weird.
Oh, yeah! That made no sense.
Yeah, which also
that's not plot. That's not at all, like, because they just happened to go to the North Pole and they just happened to attack them. Like, there was no, like...
It's so, because Aang just refuses to learn waterbending in this season, his reason for going there isn't to learn waterbending from a master, it's to stop the threat that that will be there. And also, oh my goodness, I forgot about this. Sorry, you were saying?
I'm just saying that makes way less sense when you think about it. It's like, how is your reasoning, like, it makes way more sense to, like, well, we need a waterbending teacher. Well, the South Pole doesn't have waterbenders. Well, guess we're going to the other one. Like, that makes logical sense.
Yeah, so now it's just Katara is going there to learn waterbending, and Aang is just going there to hopefully stop a thing. But they both should be wanting to go there to learn waterbending together. Like that just makes it's a better character motivation, but whatever. It's also so dumb the way the show did it, where it's like, at the end, Ozai is like, oh, well, Zhao was not able to conquer the Water Tribe. Well, that sucks, but it's okay because that wasn't actually our goal in the first place. It was just a distraction so we can take over Omashu.
Doesn't make any sense either.
Doesn't make any sense at all. The waterbenders weren't going to send troops to Omashu to defend it anyway. And also, you sent so many ships, so many resources, so many people to the North Pole just as a distraction. That seems irresponsible. Like,
Fine, Lauren. But I guess my thing about it too is like you could argue that like the North Pole is way more important than Omashu at the moment for
yeah.
multiple reasons. Like if you conquer the North Pole, there's just no more water bending. Period. Like you could just
Mm-hmm.
take 2 bendings off the board, which I feel like is the smarter move. If you're trying to take over the world, that's the smarter move. Like you already got rid of all air bending. You get rid of all of water bending. Then not only are you basically one-on-one with one of the nation, but you also the next avatar is automatically going to be water. So even if the avatar does die, you already have the next avatar in captivity, and you just got to find him, which is even easier now that there's
Yeah.
no water benders. Because if like like the theory like Yue would have been the next avatar or whatever does happen, and she's at the north, you don't have the north, now she has an advantage. So like just I don't know. I know it's plot, but I'm just like, if I was an evil tyrant, that's what I would do.
No, that makes complete sense.
Because then you can surround you can surround the entire Earth Kingdom from all directions at that point. Because you can just
Yeah, and I guess the idea is that Omashu is like the last great stronghold outside of Ba Sing Se, but you could just take it at any point. Like the waterbenders weren't going to be a factor regardless.
no.
Now that Azula's on the board, like she can take care of it. But kind of going off that though, maybe I'm thinking about this potentially in the wrong way. Where like most of the issue I had with season one's pacing is the fact that they shoehorned in character building for Azula, which again made absolutely no sense. But like they shoehorned that in that Azula stuff in this season, whereas that won't really be a factor next season, right? Anytime we're showing her doing stuff is stuff she was going to be doing anyway. So maybe they'll find the time.
But like, isn't that? I mean, but I would rather have that there because that's just less organized. You have to remember stuff, and May and Ty Lee stuff's just kind of already there, but not really. So I feel like they're gonna have lesser roles, even though they're fan favorite characters. Well,
and I kind of feel like them just being there, as opposed to her like manipulating and recruiting them, again, just kind of takes away from Azula's character. Which I want to bring one more thing about Azula's character is I feel like they, for some reason, didn't direct her, the actress, to like react at almost anything, which I thought was weird. Like there were several times when someone was like being lit on fire or Zuko was being, was
yes,
by that, and she's just like blank faced, like no smile, no like wide eyed, no smirk or anything. Just
especially when other characters right next to her are reacting. Like Iroh's like this,
like she should be reveling in this. Like again, one of the only things she did in the original season is smile with glee as Zuko was getting his butt whooped. Like, but you just didn't do that
with glee. It's crazy, but no, that's so true. Like I was expecting at least a little crack a smile, like something. Especially if they're making it about, he's pushing you to make her better, and like I mean, which again, like I kind of hate that because throughout pretty much the whole show, Azula never even considers Zuko on her level. Like she knows she's better.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are we pushing this narrative? Like she knows, like she's like, nah, Zuko's trash. I'm the best. I always have been.
Mm-hmm.
And here it's like, I have to prove myself that I'm better than Zuko. It's like,
yeah, and seeing that she has any insecurities at all before the finale, I feel takes away from that moment where she finally breaks.
Yes, and also she just doesn't feel like Azula. Like she doesn't seem scary, if that makes sense. Like the original seems scary because she's a machine. She's like, there's no feelings, there's no problems. Like she's a unit. It's terrifying. Like and like I feel like she doesn't do any of that. She's just kind of good at her job, I guess. But like that's not intimidating. That's just kind of okay. You're competent. You're like it takes away her sinisterness and just makes her competent instead. And it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, confidence good, but like you just seem like you're better Zhao at this point. You don't seem
Yeah,
like a whole new
yeah.
beast.
And I really don't see why they took away her blue fire. That
There's
was
no
such an odd
reason to.
choice.
It like there's literally no reason to. Like it's literally just nah. Like why not? Like
Like
that was her thing.
maybe the idea is that firebenders, like, the angrier they get, the hotter their fire burns, and she only really produced that fire for a second when she got angry. But
But that
the
doesn't make
point of
any
Azula is that
sense.
she's always like kind of emotionless and like so.
Yes, and like when she's not even trying, she can do these and she's precise. She doesn't use like fist or grunt or anything. She just kind of
Yeah, that's
finger
cool.
guns it, and it works, which was always so cool. It's like
Hmm.
a machine. Like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like certain characters they really got, and some they just so far it seemed they just kind of missed on, which is weird because Azula is one of like a very much a fan favorite villain by a long shot. So it feels like, how did you miss this?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
I hope they
I
improve her.
like I I meant to say this up front, but I forgot. Like, I want to just go on record saying that, like, going into this show, we were actually kind of excited. We both were like, the trailers actually looked kind of good.
Mm-hmm.
The things we were seeing from the trailer were looking solid. Like, we were actually pretty excited for it. Um, we weren't just hating just for the sake of hating once more information came out about it. Like, obviously in the lead up we were skeptical, and we were always like, but we were always like, best case scenario, it's as good, and there's no way it can, like, wholesale could improve on the original. So why bother? We did go on
Right.
record saying that, but then once the trailer came out, like, oh, this could be something. So I went into this with measured expectations, but not going in being like, oh, I'm going to hate this. So walking out being like, oh, I actually don't like that very much is honestly kind of a disappointment.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think it's that bad. Like, I don't dislike it. I don't love it by any means, and I don't think it's great. But again, it's like a 7. It's not bad. Like, it's just
Yeah,
not how I would have
yeah.
done it.
Like, as a show, it's a 6.5, 7. That's I think that's fair. And granted, it is impossible for me to try to like give it a fair score because I am always going to compare it to the original. I can't take myself out of that. Whereas you were able to basically judge the Percy Jackson show without knowing any of the source material,
Right. I never seen it.
at all. Like, so you didn't have that. Luckily, that's an actually pretty solid show in its own right, and as well as a good adaptation. This, because it is not a great adaptation of a thing that I would probably say is like one of my top 5 favorite things on this planet. Like, I can't I I can't bring myself to even kind of like it, And it made and like about halfway through, my roommate was like, he was just complaining about every single element of that Spirit World episode. He's like, I'm sorry if I'm complaining too much. I was like, no, what you're doing is comparing it to the best show ever made. Therefore, and it
Yeah.
is trying to adapt the best show ever made. So any complaints you have are completely valid.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the thing, too. Like, you gotta be kind of fair because it's like, all right, like the bar is not gonna be reached. But then again, it's like, well, then why do this? Okay, well, take that question off the bar. Like, give it some grace because the bar is not gonna be reached, which is fair. But yeah, it's just hard too because like everything that you feel like they didn't do right or you don't like, immediately you have this, well, they did it way better here. Oh, well, they did it way better here. And they should have done it this way. But I'm like, well, yeah, but then it's just live action. Would you rather have been live action shot for shot? Everything's the same.
Yeah, and that was also one of my main points when we were watching the trailers. I was like, I actually, at the time, I was like, I actually don't mind them potentially doing things different because if it is just a shot for shot remake, I'm going to be directly comparing it, and what they do in live action is going to be nearly as good. So if they do completely new stuff, that could potentially, like, if they do completely new stuff and I can't directly compare it, and that stuff is good in its own right, then and there's enough of that to outweigh the stuff that is just shot for shot, like maybe it could turn out to be overall pretty solid. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a couple of elements that I do really like that are completely new, like the Zuko squad being that one that he saved. Like that's a really good unique element of this show,
It's
but there's just
huge.
not enough of those to outweigh the stuff that they changed that I don't think is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Which again is kind of just like not necessarily on, not necessarily on like the creators or anything, but it's just kind of like, well, like I guess for me, I think the biggest thing is the like kind of like we were talking about like the formatting. It's like, can you do this show with only this many episodes? Because even though
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of non-serious episodes, especially in the beginning, they all have very important character moments and implications down the road that may not have been originally realized. So
Mm-hmm.
like building those character moments, building these payoffs and things. Like these are big things. Like you can't just
Yeah,
pretend those aren't there.
yeah. Like if we're just not doing John, I guess the White Lotus is down a member.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like that's something you wouldn't even think about in season one, but like that's huge because the point of the White
Mm-hmm.
Lotus is like, yeah, we have all these old guys from every nation, guys you've met, are just these absolute secret society like that, super awesome guys. And it's like this is this whole
Yep.
thing. And like there was like a touch of the White Lotus earlier this season, which is fine, which again, I don't like. I like kind of having that in the
Yeah.
background until it's needed, just like it was in the show. But like, yeah, we just skip John now. So like, are we even gonna have that? Is Iroh just gonna replace John? We're just not gonna have John?
But they fight very
Okay.
differently, and
Right. He doesn't have his signature firewall move.
yeah.
But
And also, John's existence in season one is is a I feel important to the world to show that not every firebender is a bad guy. Not every firebender is completely on board with what Ozai is doing. And like, this guy who's been around for a long time, he's actively, he actually dislikes Zhao specifically, which I thought was always funny.
mm,
Like I kind of would have liked to see more elements of that in the show. Like Aang mentioned once about how he had this friend in the Fire Nation when he was a kid, but like like the stuff that that was fleshed out about the Fire Nation was good, but that's still only really insofar as like, oh, the antagonists of this show, you know, like it kind of buffed up their story a little bit. It didn't show how the Fire Nation as a whole is more nuanced. Like I would have liked to see some elements of that, but it wasn't really there.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess we'll see how this continues to go. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's been
yeah,
confirmed to have at least 3 seasons. Or sorry, confirmed
oh,
to have 3 seasons, stopping at season three. Which as much as I
right,
wish
makes
they had
sense.
had split season three into 2 seasons, but
You,
because they're not
that's
called book
actually
one,
a
they're not called book one water, book one, book two earth. It's just book one
yeah.
or season one. So it wasn't called water.
That
So you could split any season into two if you needed to.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's actually a good point. I didn't realize, but like maybe they could split season two into 2 seasons also. That
that'd be
would
cool.
that would help. You could have
Yeah.
like pre-bossing say and then bossing say seasons. That would
Mm-hmm.
probably make things a lot easier but then you have to do it if you do it again, then you have like
Pre-clips,
yeah.
post-clips.
Yeah,
I think
you could do that, but then
I
that's
think that
five
could be
seasons total.
yeah.
But I mean, you could do that. But at that point, you have what
I
what, 8 episodes each. That's what, 40 episodes? That'd be a
yeah,
lot. That's a lot of budget.
yeah, yeah. That's the main thing. Like the reason, like they said they're not having Aang go on these side adventures because he's more driven to beat the Fire Nation or whatever. But the real reason is they don't have the time and money to make
Yeah, right, right.
to make all the things that he needs to.
Still.
Like I don't know. I think they're I think the elements that work about this show could be expanded on to become a halfway decent show in season two. I think there's a chance that season two could potentially just be a better adaptation because they don't have to shoehorn in a bunch of random subplots that weren't there, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could even, I guess I was about to say they could even take an episode to having, meet Jean Zhang in season two, but you're already learning waterbending and earthbending that same season. I don't know if you want to throw in that one episode to learn fighter bending. I don't have enough time.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, is there time? Do we have the budget? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Are there any final thoughts about the show that you want to say?
Honestly, it's not bad. Like, it's not bad. It's not great. It's okay. And it does some things a lot better than I thought it would. It does some things kind of worse than I thought they would. But overall, I thought it was going to be worse. It was not bad. And I did enjoy it. But like I said, it kind of just makes me want to watch the OG show again more than
Honestly,
anything.
yeah, yeah. Like I'm right there with you. It's definitely not even close to as bad as the movie. It's not even close to as bad as I thought it would be in its own right. But
Mm-hmm.
as an adaptation, I think it could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah. Um, okay, so let us know down below what you thought about this show. Are you excited for future seasons? I know I'm at least back in my mind, I am at least cautiously excited for what they'll do in future seasons. But at least as far as season one, that's it's a mixed bag. But what?
It's not that bad. But yeah, it's definitely not what I would have done with everything. But definitely some good character moments and some forgotten character moments and
Mm,
forgotten characters. And kind of just understanding that when you have 8 episodes, you can't do 20 episodes
yeah.
when they're all different and have important characters and this and that. So we'll
Mm.
see what they can do. I'm kind of interested to see how. I just hope they don't have to rush everything, but I feel like they will.
They will. They will.
Yeah.
They just will.
Hopefully it'll feel worth it. So
Okay. All right. So with that, we will see you all next time.
take care.